Welcome, everyone, to Legion Gaming. I'm your host, Donnie. As always, I'm joined by a co-host, Deucy.
Hello, everyone.
Deucy, how are you on this fanciful Saturday afternoon upon which we're recording again?
It's great to be back. You know, I had another little break last episode, couple weeks ago, and my God, time is flying.
Yeah, we're already in June. I mean, we're recording this like at the end of May, but it's basically June because this is...
That'll be when the episode is.
When the episode is out. But it's ridiculous that we're halfway through the year. We have episode 88. This is our best and most favorite Capcom franchises and games. So this will be a really fun episode. A little bit of an announcement. This will be our final episode for a little while as we sort of reassess and re-examine what we want to do. We're kind of taking a break because I'm certainly getting burned out after all we've done. We've been running on 100 miles an hour for the last 2.5 years. And
come to find out, I made me needing a little more time off from, having a kind of a set schedule of recordings, but now I need some weekends freed up. And I just want to say, I know you were talking about the burnout, but I really appreciate everything you've done
for
this podcast the last 2.5 years or so.
Yeah. Well, you've been a fantastic co-host as always. You've always been there to support things, and you always come up with the great ideas and all the fun stuff we get to record. So it's always great to bounce ideas off of each other and figure things out. And of course, that is largely rooted in the fact that we've known each other for 34 whole years at this point, which is really preposterous. So we don't know what's going to happen. We might do a new podcast. We don't know. We're just going to re-examine things, kind of reassess what we want to do creatively. Probably continue this. We're not going to.
Yeah, I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that this is just a season finale. Even though we've got 88 episodes, it's sort of like a Saturday morning cartoon first season.
Longer than that. Those even had 50 or something. It's like a Power Rangers season and a half, pretty much.
Maybe we'll come back with a more balanced season formula. But, with what we've been playing recently, I do hope we get back to at least a game of the year that we always do annually, because there's been a lot of good stuff this year.
There has been already, and again, we're only halfway through the year, and we've said this for the last 3 years, where it's holy crap, there's a lot of great games coming out, and just this week alone, which we'll get to shortly here, there's been a lot of great stuff that we've been playing, and it's we just don't have enough time to get through this stuff. So a break will be good. If you want to listen to us, again, there's 87 whole episodes where you could hear us, and you could also hear a little bit of an evolution from our first episode till now. Lots changed. I've learned a lot. Definitely, I've learned a lot myself. But again, we'll come back at some point, and we'll let everyone know it's in some shape or form about what's going to happen.
It's funny. I was listening to a different podcast about movies and stuff, and they just recently redid their first episode because your first one is just so different from what your show can evolve into. Yeah, that their first episode was Street Fighter the movie, ironically, and they came back and did it in the new format that they do all their movies in, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I was thinking about ours was Mega Man X, which is a game that we both love so much, but we were so new to this thing.
And that's why we chose it, because I told you we should just do that because we both know the game in and outs. And obviously you could tell by the recording, I was definitely afraid of sounding too loud, which is something I still deal with myself. But the audio is so much quieter, and we just are I try not to stammer as much. I definitely have a bit of a stuttering problem at times too. But it's there was definitely we're still trying to get a feel for how to record and how to speak and not overrun each other, right?
And even what we wanted to talk about, what were our topics going to be?
I had a format I thought I wanted to do, and we're just playing it by ear, which I always encourage everyone to do, because there's a lot of times where you're going to be planning stuff to a T, and it may not work out the way you want. Sometimes you just have to do it and get it over with. And that's what we did. The first episode, we're just look, we've been talking about this. We just have to just jump in, do it. We'll figure it out as we go. There's stuff that I'll have to learn as we go. And it's been a fun time. So thank you for listening through all this time. If you've been listening to us since then, we've done a lot, have done a lot since then. So I think there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up the pike at some point. But again, I'm definitely one of those people who likes to not reinvent what I do creatively, but always re-examine things and see what I want to do, because I feel like there's always times we could be doing better or more cool stuff. So
keep it fresh.
Yeah, keep it fresh, even though we're talking retro, which is not as fresh, right?
Yeah. Which, with the current state of things, it's fun to go back and look at all the games that, released not broken.
Yeah. Well, some were broken, or some, we got $70 updates that fixed brokenness, but that's what the part of the fun is. It's always nostalgia, and it's always fun to re-examine these things and take a look back at time. One of our recent episodes we did that was one of my most favorite, was our look back at 1995. I thought that was a really fun time, because we got to examine that as as a whole year, right? We looked at all the stuff that was going on and how it related to us and how it relates now. So it's stuff like that. We'll be coming back with a lot of cool stuff, I'm sure, at some points. But before we get to everything Capcom, Deucy, what have you been playing? Which I know is a lot because I've been playing a lot.
It is a lot. And also, like, I have to do some catching up because you and Vito already covered a few of the ones that I was playing on the last episode. First of all, Forza Horizon 6 released since I was last on. And at first, I didn't know if I wanted to get into it too much because I didn't do Forza Horizon 5 at all. I really, really enjoy the more structured Forza, like Forza Motorsport and all the Forzas that were racing on tracks. But then I thought about it, and I really spent a lot of time in Forza Horizon 4.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
loved
fun one.
3 and 4,
Yeah.
and large part of that, especially with 3, was because of the Hot Wheels DLC, which is really cool. It kind of gave me that rush, San Francisco rush that we'd been missing for a long time. Yeah, but I agree with it where 5 took me a while to get into because I've mentioned it a billion times, but it's like the open world format could be kind of rough at times where you just like kind of sprint between events, and like it's a pretty massive world, right?
Yeah.
But 6 looks really incredible. I'm still waiting for the PS5 version that's yet to be.
Oh, that's
yet
right.
to have a date,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I've been really dying to play it because it's in Japan, and I know Vito's all over it, and you've been all over it too.
Yeah, I'm slowly catching up to him. He had like crazy numbers, and he only had the 3-day advanced copy. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I expected him to jump into that pretty heavily though.
But like I was telling our friends in like some group text, like I thought it was jumping the shark when I saw that you had to race a Gundam. And then I did that mission, and it's very scripted, but it was so awesome. Like, because the Gundam is like constantly talking and talking in a robotic voice as it's like jumping over you, and at one point it's running through a river while you're on the highway and everything. And they try to set up the track so that you don't have to worry too much about braking or traffic, so that you can, while you're going over 150 miles an hour, you can sort of move the camera around and look at where the Gundam is.
Because that's what you're going to want to be doing.
Yeah. And then at the end, it's scripted and you beat it, but it's like, nah, that thing would have kicked my ass.
It could have stomped you at any moment.
Yeah. What else did I get into that? Was it around the same time or shortly after that was Lego Batman? Oh my God, that is so amazing.
Yeah, this game has really gripped me. It's essentially a new Arkham game, but it's like a lighter version, which is fine. It's Lego-fied, but the combat is ripped straight out of Arkham and like the Spider-Man games, which is great. But again, it's more simplified because this is technically for a younger audience, but it's also meant to be for all ages, but obviously geared more towards the younger crowd so you can get into it. But I freaking love this game. Yeah,
they set it up in an open world environment like the Arkham games, but it's the way they present the story is like, I think a lot of people know that Lego games were a collection of movies. When Lego Star Wars first came out, it was episodes 1, 2, and 3. The second one was 4, 5, and 6. And you had to go into like separate doors and then you would play the missions. I think they even did that for Lego Jurassic Park. And
they did for most, because I forgot what the first open world Lego game was, but it took them a long while.
I think it was Lego Batman 2 might have been the first open world.
Oh, maybe. Yes, that sounds about right.
Which Lego Batman 1 was an awesome time too. It was sort of set up like the animated series. This, though, blew my mind because they've taken every Batman that you know, from Adam West to the animated series to every movie with all the different actors, and they've sort of like just melted it into one pot. And like the story is continuous, but you can tell you're like, oh, now I'm doing Batman Begins. Now I'm doing the Batman. Now I'm doing Batman 89.
Yeah, they've melded the stories together and some of the characters you remember. And also what I love about this more than anything is all the Easter eggs, all the references.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff where like Two-Face, when you first meet him, which is, again, it's sort of like in a circus area for Batman Forever. He says that line that he was referencing with Jim Carrey, where he says like, I'm not a fan of your buffoonery or something like that, right? It's stuff like that. And then there's like, you'll find posters for Julie Newmar.
Yes.
Like a missing cat.
I saw there was a poster for a radio DJ, and it was like Conroy's voice,
it's like a
something.
podcast thing for him. Yeah.
And then also like they'll take, none of the voice actors are the character or the voices from the movies, but they do a pretty good job. And like, they know who you're thinking about. So like Ra's al Ghul was Liam Neeson. And at one point he goes, I have a particular set of skills to fight the Joker or fight somebody. freaking the penguin. They do the Danny DeVito penguin, and he goes, so anyway, start blasting.
Yep.
Like, it's just so great. All the little stuff they throw in.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. I really, I was already looking forward to it beforehand, but I just didn't expect it to be as good as it is because it takes a little bit to get to the open world area because you have like that sort of a longer prologue where you, or like where Batman Begins starts, where you're going through the League of Shadows. And it's sort of like your tutorial area that kind of gets you familiar with some of the functions and whatnot. And then it opens up to where you can explore the open world. And I've been enjoying that a ton. Like there's a lot of stuff to find. There's a lot of collectibles.
A lot. Yeah.
There's a ton, right? And there's a lot of Batman suits you can collect. There's a lot of, just like I said, just fun references for every sort of era of Batman on there. And even notice like through each chapter, the bat signal changes that's respective to the era, which is really awesome, right?
Nice. I just got through fighting the Penguin. So I think I'm going to be moving into a newer era even after that. Probably the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin era. But another thing that got me was you're going after the Penguin and a shark comes after you and he pulls out the shark spray.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
I was like, oh my God, this is freaking great.
Yeah, it's just a truly enjoyable game. It's really, really great. It's definitely the best Lego game I've ever played at this point. Like I know none of them are really bad necessarily. It's just sort of a tier list based on what how much fondness you have for a certain franchise. But this one really, they put their best foot forward and they really excelled at like just getting everything you love about Batman into one game. And it's just so fun to explore. Like I've been doing this and splitting time between some of their games to talk about too. But it's like this has just been great to where it's like if I want to do a mission, I can do that. But a lot of times I find myself just exploring to find like the Riddler trope or the Riddler boxes. I forget what they're called. The puzzle boxes.
Oh yeah,
right. Where there's sort of like these little puzzles that are strewn about the world.
It's like the old Riddler trophies.
There's stuff where like you have to tag animals that have escaped from a zoo.
Yeah,
right. It's just there's so many of these fun activities that are kind of silly and dumb, and they're really easy, but they're really fun because the world is so detailed that you do want to explore this and see what other stuff they packed in.
And I feel like with all of these that I'm talking about that I've been currently playing, it's like different games for different situations. Like Lego Batman, I play really quick. Like you said, you can just pick up and drop out as much as you need to when you're waiting for something to happen. And then like the missions are sort of deceptively long. Like I was playing one this morning and then I looked at the clock. I was like, oh crap, I got to be here for the recording. Another game I got recently is on Switch 2, and it's Yoshi and the Mysterious Book.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this. I wish I could put more time into it, but there's been a lot of stuff. But I really been enjoying it.
This one is great because it's on my portable Switch, so I play it usually before bed or something. Or if we're watching something else on TV, I can just pick this up and play. And I was really looking forward to this when it was first announced last year. And I was like, oh my God, May is so far away, and now all of a sudden we're here. But it's a great feel. It's like it almost looks like you're back on the original Yoshi's Island, especially when you first started up. There's that little map, and you go into this book and you just go. I was only on the first page, but there is so much to find. You have to put a little magnifying glass on a certain creature, and then you just do all of this exploration about that creature. You like, what does it taste like when you're Yoshi, or what does it do when it pops on your back?
It's weird because it's like it's not a traditional platformer in that sense, right? Like you don't kill and bop enemies. There's no sort of I don't know if there's really a boss or at some point. I'm on chapter 2. I got through like most of chapter 2, and there's not like a boss fight necessarily. But the whole idea is like you're sort of like would be like cryptozoologist or something like that. Yeah, right. Where you're supposed to do things where it's like you feed them like a fruit from a tree. How's that affect them, or like what can they do there? And then you'll find new abilities based on that. Like if you feed a certain enemy, if you get them in the mud or something, then the bubbles they blow will suddenly be stronger and carry you higher, kind of thing. Yeah. So the game is really just about experimentation and finding out what these creatures are doing and how they live and what things can affect their abilities and whatnot. And then you have to use those abilities to get further in levels, which then get you stars that you collect. It's sort of like your experience in a sense, and those unlock new chapters. So it's a totally different platform than what you're used to. It's very puzzle driven and just sort of totally based on experimentation, which is really good because it's a little bit different, but I like it because it's not. And I don't think
I don't know if you can really die. Like
no, you're invincible.
Yeah, like which I think carries over from Yoshi in Super Mario Wonder was like the invincible easy mode, and I guess that's just now canon for Yoshi. But yeah, so you can get hit and it kind of throws you off of what you've been trying. And then you just pick yourself back up and start experimenting again. You don't have to worry about anything.
It's a very low stress game.
Yeah, and the artwork is amazing in it. Like Yoshi, It kind of looks like the original Yoshi's Island, the way it's
Yeah,
sort of
it's a
hand
very
drawn.
painterly style,
Yeah.
and I really, really love it because obviously it looks even more awesome on an OLED TV. But it is really stunning, and also kind of has the Spider-Verse effect, where like it has like these I don't want to call them missing frames, but you know, the animation is made in such a way that it looks like it's like a drawing come to life kind of thing. It's really, really great. I mean, this whole package is really solid. If you're expecting like a really hardcore Mario Wonder level platformer, you're not going to get that. Just kind of go in blind and, you know, expect something different than what you're used to. Cause I think that it's fun. Like I usually like read a bunch of reviews and watch a bunch of videos on certain things just cause, and kind of get a temperature for how people feel about it. And there's somewhere I just feel like they get some of the aspects of it, and there's somewhere they totally miss it. It's like, well, I don't know what you would have expected from this. Like,
Yeah.
it was kind of what it said on the box, you know? Like,
Yeah, I saw a review from somebody that scored it lower because it was repetitive. I'm like, not really. You're constantly discovering.
Really weird. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is like the whole thing of the game is like you're supposed to, again, like experiment with these creatures and see what you can do with them. Right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, yeah, it might get repetitive to a sense, but at the same time, like you're encouraged to do that, you know?
Yeah, you're just being repetitive. Maybe open your mind and try something new.
Yeah. You might have to be a little bit more objective, I guess. Yeah.
And last but not least, on this like crazy 2 weeks of releases, a game that I've been waiting, what is it, like 14 years for?
Pretty much. And it was announced about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, because it's funny. Like, there's only one game I'll talk about that we haven't played together, but this will be the one. This is like one of the few episodes where you and I have been playing pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah.
For the last 2 weeks.
Thanks to this great release list.
Yeah.
This is First Light 007, and oh my God, James Bond is back. I've been diving into it. I haven't gotten too far into it because I want to have a good chunk of time to really experience
You
the
really
story.
need it, because I've been chipping away at it. I've also been spending time with Lego Batman, but you do want to savor this game because it's really freaking good.
But it's also gotten me back into like wanting to watch the movies again and read the books and all of that. I'm like back into my fandom that first started with GoldenEye.
Which, by the way, we did a whole series of episodes way back.
Yes.
Covering pretty much every single Bond game that exists, which was a hell of a trilogy, I think. Plus, we did the whole standalone episode on GoldenEye, which included Vito. I think that must have been like almost 2 years ago now. I can't remember. We were just talking about that, how like time goes by so fast. But yeah, we did a whole set of episodes covering all the Bond games, and this one is really incredible. It's done by the Hitman developers. I think it's IO Interactive, and I think they are the most perfect developer to do this, because Hitman is all about world building and like the atmosphere and like just these sort of stepping into a world that kind of that feels like it could actually exist, right? Because in Bond, the whole idea is like you're going these situations where it's like there's a bunch of people around, like you're supposed to be kind of stealth and sort of incognito, and there's no one better than Hitman to do that, Agent 47, right? So they've managed to meld everything that was great about Hitman and the Uncharted series into a Bond game, and it works so well. The person who plays Bond, I believe his name is Patrick Gibson. He did he was an actor in Dexter: Original Sin, which I did enjoy that show.
Oh wow.
It's sort of like a USA version of Dexter, which is why it was great. Yeah, it was like lower budget. It got canceled, unfortunately, but it was great. He's a really great Bond in here. And holy crap, like some of the set pieces you get just in the first couple levels are really ridiculous. Like it's really impressive how they just sort of thread all these situations together to make it feel like a Bond movie.
The most impressive thing, I haven't gotten too far into it. I did the opening scene, which is very action-packed, which leads into the Bond song, which is a great touch. It makes you feel like you're watching a Bond movie. And then I was at MI6 headquarters, and there's like a lot of Easter eggs in just that if you're a Bond fan. Like when you go into M's office and just outside in the secretary waiting area, it feels very much like the old Connery Bonds. Like you can even look over to your right and see this coat rack where he would always like toss his hat and it would just magically land on there. And the doors are like these huge padded doors that were in all the early movies. And then you go down into the Q labs, and a lot of that stuff is from the different movies, and they're testing it, like the flamethrower out the back of a motorbike.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
And so the oil slick coming out of the cars and stuff. And it got me thinking, like, Everything or Nothing back in the day, I can't even remember, the early 2000s.
It must have been like 2004-ish, somewhere around 2005. Yeah.
That was like the new bar for Bond games because it was such a movie feel. But this is going the step further, like you said, because now you're playing the moments that were like cutscenes back in those games.
Yeah.
And now you're just like fully immersed in everything.
Yeah, it also has one of the best tutorial areas, I would say.
Yeah.
Just because it's sort of the theme, it's sort of themed around like a supercut montage of training, which is kind of like how the movies do. But it's great because it gets to the point of what it's trying to teach you, but then also makes it fun because it's threading it with these other cutscenes that make it seem like it's progressing. Because the idea is you're earning your 00 status in here. So it's like you're starting off as Patrick Gibson as Bond, and then you're supposed to earn the number. That's kind of the tagline of the game. And it's also on the back of the controller, which is really fun. But again, like it's just the way they've connected all the scenes and like just made you feel like Bond. Like, you know, you have your Q watch where it's sort of like it's like Arkham Vision in a sense, but you can kind of highlight like destructibles in the environments, and like those will make new pathways like Bond would. Like you could take a single shot and all of a sudden this explosion comes about and you go up a ramp. The melee combat is really great in here. I don't know how much you've done yet.
I mean, I did it for the training and I thought, okay, I need to practice more because that was the one tiny gripe I had, was that there was a lot thrown at you at once, and I was not feeling smooth at all. Like, I think Uncharted was very basic when it came to melee and stuff.
Really basic.
Because they wanted you to do gunplay as well. And Bond does do a lot more punching, especially in his recent Daniel Craig ones. But, like, the things you have to remember, that there's a difference between dodging and dashing and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm pushing the wrong button and I'm taking 2 shots to the face. I'm like, that's not very Bond-like.
See, I was the opposite. It felt like a glove for me because like you see the yellow flash, that's parry, red flash, sidestep. Really, the great thing about the combat is that it feels really heavy and weighty.
Yeah.
But also the camera shakes with it and it feels like an action movie. Like there's a scene, I don't want to spoil it because I don't think you've gotten there yet, but there's a little bit of a bathroom brawl in there. And like some of the environment kind of gets destroyed in the midst of your fight. So it really feels like a movie. And it just feels really dynamic and heavy. And you're in control. And there's times where you fight multiple enemies at once, which does get kind of difficult. But again, like once you can sort of grapple the senses of like how you're supposed to parry or dodge, you really feel like a badass and you feel like Bond at that point.
Yeah.
It's just something you have to grapple with too. But I really enjoyed it. And this is just like a really well-made game so far. I'm like a few chapters in and it's just more of like one of those games where you're really excited to see what's around the corner or what is the next challenge or what it's asking you to do next. And then of course there's like a whole story that unfolds within it. It's just freaking phenomenal. It's totally worth the wait.
One thing I like that they added was getting to talk as Bond, and you get to like bluff your way through things or straight up lie. And in other Bond games, no matter how much of a movie feel that they had, they did become very action heavy and like shoot the red barrels and go into the shooting gallery with a lot of enemies coming at you. Whereas this, like you said, because of the Hitman heritage, it's going to feel a lot more like a Bond movie. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to get through it. This is one where I may actually go through on the harder difficulty to go through. I'm playing.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like I love this game so much so far. It feels so good to play and just so exciting to kind of experience that I might go through it again and see what else is available. But it's really, really well made. It's a stellar game if you haven't played it yet. I know it's done really well. They said they sold like 1.5 million in 24 hours, which fantastic news. Cause that means that they're probably going to make another one at some point.
They better. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very confident they will, and I'm very confident in their ability to make another one. So I'm really excited about that. I'm sure we've been waiting to gush about that too, because we both been playing it in parallel.
Yeah.
On top of the other stuff. Yeah. Was that the last one you had been?
That I can remember. Yeah. Those were the heavy hitters.
So I'll talk about one last game. It's not as exciting as Bond because, Bond was like the big thing of the week, but I have been waiting for this one. It's Mina the Hollower. It's made by Yacht Club Games.
I saw this. I was like, oh man, that looks awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. It's the team who did Shovel Knight. So you know how great Shovel Knight is. Like that's one of the best homages to the 8-bit era ever made. And Mina the Hollower is a little bit different. It still has that sort of 8-bit feel to it where it looks like a Nintendo game, maybe like Super Nintendo era-ish, somewhere around there, right? But it's more of like a Zelda-like in here. I will say it is very challenging like that. It's almost like a Souls-like in that sense, which kind of sucks, but they have added so many assists to this game that like if you want to toggle on certain options to help you and make the game easier, you can really tailor it to how you want to play. Like if you want to take less damage, do more damage. There's modifiers for like checkpoints on bosses and stuff. So I'm going to be toggling with those, kind of playing with those because it's been really hard so far, and not like in a cheap way, but just like, wow, this is, I've only been playing like an hour and I feel like I've got my ass handed to me 12 times.
You're like,
already.
I'd like to progress now.
Yeah,
please.
yeah. But it's really great. You play Mina, who's like this mouse. It really does feel like a Zelda game, both in format and feel, except she can jump. So I guess it's more like Link's Awakening more than anything else.
But it plays a lot quicker than Zelda's.
Way faster. Yeah, this is definitely combat heavy. And then also she has the ability where she can burrow under the ground and pop up. So that I'm sure there's going to be a point where you can attack people with that. But the idea is like you can dodge enemies with that, and you can also get to inaccessible areas or go under areas. So it's really great. It's Yacht Club Games, so it's like really top quality kind of 2D gameness. It's only $20, so I'd say like if you love Shovel Knight, you're probably like this because they have a signature style, and this really feels like it. But that's this one I've been waiting for. It came out on Switch 2. I think it's even Switch 1. It's like on Xbox, PC, PS5. It's on everything.
Haven't they done some other pixel games between Shovel Knight and this one?
Yeah, they did Shovel Knight Dig, which is really good. And then I forgot what the other one was.
I think there was one thing I'm thinking of that wasn't Shovel Knight related for once.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm trying to remember what that was.
Yeah.
But I mean, they do a really good job. Like they take a while to come out with their games, and even this one was like kickstarted, but that's kind of great because they're sort of I would say they're probably an independent developer. So that really just means that they're committed to making sure that they're taking their time with their games. And you could tell like Shovel Knight that was one of my favorite 2D games for a long time because of how great it was. I actually should replay that because I've had an itch for that since playing Mina.
I think I don't think I've beaten that one, but I got to the last level, which really ramps up the difficulty.
It's hard. Like I did finish it back on PS4, and I was like, wow, that was satisfying. But man, that was really hard later on.
Yeah.
But that did have a checkpoint system, so it was a little bit helpful in that regard. But Mina, I think, is even more difficult than Shovel Knight is. But it's worth trying out, I would say.
Yep.
All right, Deucy. Well, let's talk about some of our favorite Capcom franchises and games. All right, Juicy. We're doing a list episode here because we like to do these, but we don't do them too often. I don't remember what the last one we did was. It was first person shooters a while back.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah. But it feels like we pull these out because we also don't want to overrun them too much because we also want to make sure that the themes we're doing a little bit more fun for us. And for us, we decided to do our favorite developers, and Capcom is one of our favorites ever. I mean, that's one of those developer and publishers that's been like the foundation of gaming for us.
Yeah, I was going back and forth. There's a ton of developers we could have done. I was debating between this, Konami, and Rare probably.
Yeah.
Which could be obviously future episodes. And I feel like this is going to be the list episode where we're recapping a lot because we love Capcom so much that we've already done a lot of these games on other episodes solo.
Yeah, so it's like there's stuff on here we'll definitely talk about that we've done full episodes on. So if you want like a full detailed rundown of some of these games, like definitely go back and check them out. This is really more like we're naming our favorite franchises from Capcom because they're their publisher and developer, but more specifically what our favorite games are from those franchises because some of those franchises have spanned literal decades.
Yes.
So there's a lot of games to pick from there. So it's more like here's our favorite franchise, and this is my favorite game from that franchise. There's some where it's really hard to pick just one.
Yeah, I think I even split one up on this because the franchise is so huge that there's a lot of different pockets that you could judge separately.
There is, yeah. So before we get to our list, I did want to give a little bit of history on Capcom because they do have an origin story. So Capcom was originally founded June 11th, 1983 by Kenzo Sugimoto. Sugimoto was the president of IRM Software Engineering, and he created Capcom's precursor called IRM Corporation in 1979. So IRM at the time, they were known for like a lot of Pachinko machines, and some of the other notable games they did were Moon Patrol, R-Type, and one of the earliest beat-em-ups in Kung Fu Master, which I'm sure we covered a little bit in our beat-em-ups episode way back.
Wow, the one on Nintendo?
No, that was I think that was Data East. I forgot what that one was.
Oh, okay.
Kung Fu Master was a little bit different one, I think. Essentially, what was happening is he was the president of IRM and IRM. It's hard to distinguish the two.
Yeah,
and then he founded Capcom as a separate branch to sort of handle like the internal sales and the manufacturing of their game machines. So at the time it was called Japan Capsule Computers Computers Limited, which they took that as a portmanteau, right? Capsule Computers, Capcom. So it's like a combination of those two.
I've always known it for one of their games, Captain Commando.
Yeah, which is sort of an offshoot of Capsule Computers in a sense as well. Yeah, he was sort of like the mascot for Capcom, and he never really came to be. I mean, he came to be as a mascot, but he wasn't like a mascot very long. Because
he did not have multiple games.
He did not. He had one game that was really fun. It's also stupidly expensive on Super Nintendo. And like, I have a cart, but I was shocked that's like almost $200 nowadays.
Oh my God.
It's really crazy. So both companies have been consolidated and renamed to Sanbi Co. Limited in September 1981. And then throughout all this time, Sugimoto, he was the president of both IRM and Capcom and / Sanbi by this point. And he left IRM in 1983. So at this point, he established Capcom Co. Limited in June 1983 to take over all the internal sales. So at this point, Capcom, they kind of, the idea of capsule was really likened to their software being a capsule packed to the brim was gaming fun, which I think is a little bit of a silly metaphor, but technically they're not wrong.
I mean, I guess it makes sense more in Japan where they have a lot of those like capsule machines.
They do. Yeah. Those are really great in Shenmue when you could spend all your money on those things.
Yeah.
And some of our retro stores nearby have those too. I think it's funny those have been picked up now.
Yeah, they're making a comeback over here.
So then in 1989, Capcom officially had merged with Sanbi to create this current branch in Japan. And then even going back before that, Capcom's first offering was a metal game called Little League. Now I was wondering, like, what's a metal game? And I realized it's one of those games where it has like that pusher you see in the arcades, right? Where you dump the coins in there and then like it dumps more coins out kind of thing. Yeah. So they started with those before even they hit the arcades. That was like their first thing. It was Little League in 1983. And then their first shmup arcade was Vulgus in May 1984. And then around that time too was when 1942 was released as well. And then Capcom eventually moved to console game development in 1985. And again, like their first port for Nintendo was 1942. So it's crazy that like 1942 was like the first iteration of a Capcom game on any console system.
Wow, that I actually didn't know.
Yeah, and then since then, of course, the rest is history. They've expanded beyond that. I mean, they're one of the most notable and one of the most successful publishers and developers nowadays. Like, I know they had a little bit of a lull in like the, mid 2000s, late 2000s, right? But even then, like, I would say even at their worst, they weren't that bad. It was just maybe they were trying to catch trends more than anything else.
And that might have been. I remember during that time, their biggest thing that I could think of and I actually liked was Lost Planet.
I did love that series. That was a great series. Yeah.
But other than that, like you said, it was a lull, and then all of a sudden they came roaring back. And,
yeah. They changed how their business was, and then they've been just like on a roll nonstop, especially this year alone. Like,
God, did they do that Bionic Commando?
The remaster, yes, they did the original and then that sort of remake that came out, which was also not well received in the late 2000s.
No, that was definitely one of those trying to catch a trend things.
Yeah,
it did not work.
Bionic Commando on NES is really cool, and I also really enjoyed Bionic Commando Rearmed, which was like that 2D remake on Xbox Live Arcade back then. That was a really awesome game. I think I had the second one as well. I wish those would get re-released because I don't think those are playable anywhere right now. Maybe they might be delisted from PC as well. I don't even know.
Ooh.
But those were great times at the time. So for our list, we've broken it out. We have a top 10, but of course we always want to do honorable mentions. So we have a few
just missed.
Yeah, the ones that just missed the list, but we still love them one way or another. But they just didn't make a list for one reason or another. So Deucy, if you want to go through your honorable mentions, and then I'll chip through mine.
Okay, I can go through these pretty quick. Especially my first couple here are on your list. So
that's also fair.
So for me, I just liked them, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, not as much as I did.
Yeah, but first of all is Onimusha. I think I liked it more recently when we did the episode about it, and I really was getting back into it. And I am kind of looking forward to that new one that's supposed to be coming out.
Oh, that's coming out later this year. So yeah, I already forgot that was coming out. That's going to be another Capcom banger.
And then another one, Ghosts and Goblins. I remember somebody I knew had this on Nintendo, but
I was trying to remember who, because I don't know if Vito had it, but someone I knew had it as well.
Yeah, and I remember borrowing it and never getting very far. And then it started coming out on a lot of collections and things, and I would play it more and more and still not get very far. It's a very hard game, but for some reason, I just really like it. And I feel like it led to a lot of other future things. And plus, the little guy, was it Arthur?
Arthur.
I mean, he shows up in so many other things like Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff like that. Like, yeah, he's one of their mascots.
He's an iconic Capcom character for sure.
Yeah. The other one I have on here, an honorable mention, is not the whole series, but just the first game, Dino Crisis, which was so much fun. And it was like Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, even harder because they had the same little treasure chest system where you could put your items, but they did not carry over to other chests.
Yeah, which is what Resident Evil wanted to do originally, which would have been awful.
So they said, let's throw it into our dinosaur game, which was like, Jurassic Park meets Resident Evil. And I wish they would do some sort of like reimagining or a remake of this one like they've been doing with all the Resident Evil games, because it was a really fun story and a really fun time. But I'll have one later from the series on my actual list because that was even more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one that was on your list, just barely missed my list because I love that one too, but we'll talk about that soon enough.
I also had to put on here because I talk about it so much, Goof Troop.
I knew this had to be on here somewhere. I was actually
talk
shocked
about
it was
it
an honorable mention. Yeah.
I thought about it more so because like, I just loved it so much when I was a kid and I rented it. But I never replayed it a lot over the years.
I think it was just harder to access because also another title is just we didn't really see it for sale often. Like I picked it up at a retro convention or whatever.
Yeah.
But I saw it for rent at our respective stores and it just kind of faded off after that. And then people are finally able to play it now because it's on the new Disney Afternoon collection for Switch, which is great because this game to me is one of the more forgotten Capcom games.
Yeah, I'm so happy that it's on the Disney Afternoon Switch collection. Which is what differentiates it from the other consoles, and that's why I doubled up because I really want to have access to this game again. Yeah. And then last on my honorable mentions, Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. It was out before Mickey Mania, which I think a lot more people remember.
Yeah.
But Magical Quest, it also led into its own series, which I never played any of the sequels. I think I have the third one on Game Boy Advance. But the first one was just a really good time. The artwork was amazing. Like Disney and Capcom had this solid hand-in-hand bond, and it carried over into the Super Nintendo. I want to say this was one of their first ones on Super Nintendo.
I want to say it was because I can't recall what would have been before this on Super Nintendo.
Maybe Aladdin around the same time.
Maybe.
But like this was, I mean, it made the cover of Nintendo Power, and it was so fun. You could play as Mickey. Each level, he got a different costume and a different ability. And it's deceptive because it plays pretty easy for kids, and then all of a sudden you're getting your butt handed to you.
That sounds like Capcom.
Yeah.
All right, for my list, I put a very recent one on here because I don't want to call it. I guess we'll call it sort of the honeymoon phase of sorts, but it's Pragmata. I've gushed a lot about this game in the past episodes. I really enjoy this game. It's just
I thought it was going to crack your top 10.
I know it wasn't going to because I really enjoy it, but it's just the top 10. It's just I think those usually have like a longer tail, right? Because they're a little bit older. I might have played them a lot more at the time, but Pragmata could easily be in my top 10 or top 11 realistically. But I really enjoy this game. It's got a lot of action, a lot of just Capcom greatness in here. It's like a brand new franchise they're experimenting with, and the story's really, really good. I've just really been enjoying it this year. This is definitely probably, I have to say, top 5 so far this year. But again, like that list could be crazy by the end of the year with all the great stuff we've been playing.
Yeah.
But this is just a stellar action game. It looks amazing on the PS5 and Xbox and all the systems it's on. It's the RE engine, of course, so it's just a very great engine for this kind of game. Really great game. Little Nemo, the Dream Master on Nintendo. Yeah. So this one was a game that I desperately wanted to own when I was a kid, but I borrowed it from friends who owned it.
I saw it all the time in Nintendo Power, and I always wanted to own it, and I never did.
It's a really cool platform. You play as Little Nemo, and like you feed these creatures candy, and then you could ride them, and they all have different abilities to kind of scale through the levels. It has this really charming, like dream worldy art style to it because it's supposed to like a dream world. Really great game. I love this game a ton when I was able to get my hands on it. I finally owned a copy way later in life, but this is just one of those NES games that I think, again, it's sort of underappreciated these days. I don't know what the temperature is on it for most people, but I really feel like it's not as loved as it could be.
I wish it would come out on one of the collections or the like the Switch Online or something.
It should at least come on the Switch Online app because I think it's time. Like I think I thought they announced a new one like years ago, and I don't know if it ever came to fruition or if it was something that was supposed to be Kickstarter. I don't know, but I feel like they talked about Little Nemo at some point, and it just never came out. Right?
I feel like it kind of made a little comeback in comics.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, but I don't know that should naturally lead to games.
Yeah. Next one of my honorable mentions is one that is admittedly a pretty mediocre game, but I love it because my brother and I played the hell out of this. It's Spawn in the Demon's Hand for the Dreamcast. This is a 4-player brawler action arena kind of game. It's themed around Spawn, obviously, topping from Spawn. So my brother was a huge Spawn fan back then, still is. And this had a ton of unlockable characters. It was definitely imbalanced. It definitely had some issues with like the camera and whatnot and some cheap bosses, but this was so much fun to just kind of experiment with the different weapons you could pick up around the arena. It was just stupid, dumb fun. It's a great arcade game, which is why it was probably made that way, right? Like it's sort of like it wasn't meant to be a balanced at home, like sensible game.
Yeah, it's supposed to take your quarters.
Yeah, right. But we played this nonstop, unlocked everybody. It's a really great game for us. But again, like you kind of have to look over some of the flaws to really enjoy it. Darkstalkers series. This was an arcade series that eventually got ported to like the Saturn and PS1 at the time. They made a few of them, I think like 3 or 4 of them. And this was like in sort of a Capcom's golden age of the CPS2 hardware in the arcades, where they had these really gorgeous, well-realized, well-animated sprites. And this is sort of it's a fighting game that takes some of like I guess you call them the universal monsters, or like the monsters across time. Like, you have a Frankenstein kind of parallel. You have a succubus with Morgan, who became like one of the most popular characters from this series by far.
Looks.
Looks, exactly. Dimitri's like a vampire. This was just a really great time for me.
Were they all fighters?
Yes, all of them were fighting games. Yeah, and they all had like a really distinct style. Like all the attacks were like really over the top. Like there was Lord Raptor, who was like this 80s metalhead guy from the UK, and like his leg would turn into like a chainsaw, and like he would pull out like a guitar and do like a shredding electric attack or something like that. It's just it's like a great arcade game because it looks as over the top as you'd expect in an arcade.
I feel like these did they come out after Street Fighter?
They did, yeah, because it was like 94, I think, for the first one.
I feel like the artwork for these really influenced later Street Fighters, and then definitely the Marvel vs. series.
I would say it's totally fair, because after this is like when Alpha came out, and then X-Men Children of the Atom was around the same time, maybe a little bit shortly after this. But yeah, that sort of big sprite style definitely was probably informed from Darkstalkers. And the last game series I'll mention on my honorable mentions is one you already talked about. It's the Dino Crisis series. I love 1 and 2. 3 is a little bit hard to love. It's on Xbox, and they kind of went off the rails with it, but the first game is really great because like everything you mentioned, Deucy, it's a survival horror game with dinosaurs. I thought this was way more difficult than Resident Evil, just for all the reasons you listed, because it's a great game, but it really makes you feel like these dinosaurs are a threat. Like even the smaller dinosaurs could kill you pretty quickly.
I think I want to say I had a guide for it, because you need to know what's coming up.
Absolutely. Like this is one where, and again, like the save system is like Resident Evil, where it's like you might lose progress for a while if you're not careful. Dino Crisis 2, one of my favorite PS1 games, because it's really bizarre, because it's sort of like the opposite of one in every sense of the word. It's more of like an arcade game, but it's really, really great. So that's my honorable mentions. And Deucy, I guess we could start with your number 10, which is why I don't want to talk too much about mine.
Yeah.
Because you're kicking off with yours here.
That was a good segue.
Yeah.
Because at number 10 is Dino Crisis 2.
Yeah, I love this game a lot.
I wish I had owned it. I remember renting it, and then I think I borrowed it from you a lot. In my mind, it's kind of like what Resident Evil 4 did to the series when
that's a good parallel.
When they went from very survival horror to, hey, let's rack up a bunch of points and then buy things at a store and improve ourselves, and then we can kill dinosaurs in even more clever ways. But yeah, it hooked me from the beginning. I think I beat it maybe more than once.
Because I think it was designed that way, because I had rented this first, and I was shocked I was able to finish it, but I was so addicted to the game at the time that I was like, wow, like I didn't expect to love it as much as I did.
It was a lot quicker of a play than a very procedural Dino Crisis 1. Yeah,
and you were definitely more empowered, like you said, because in Dino Crisis 1, you're really timidly going through every room because you could die at any moment. This is the opposite, where it's like, you have such a huge arsenal, and like I think you had like a co-op partner with you most of the time. I can't remember if he was with you all the time.
Yeah, I do remember you got to choose which character you played the game through.
Yeah, it was Regina. I don't remember what the other guy was.
Yeah, and then the levels weren't like Dino Crisis 1, where you had to go all over. It wasn't like a Metroidvania. It was like a point A to point B, kill all the dinosaurs in your way.
Yeah, I love this game. It's I wish it was more accessible. Because I know the PS1 version is really expensive now. Like I was really mad because I thought my brother lost my disc, and it turns out it was in the case of another game.
Nice.
It was in Toy Story 2, which he owned, so I gave that back to him. But it's really hard to find nowadays, and I don't think it might have been released on PSN on PS3 way back. But again, like, you can't really, you could buy some games on, I don't even know if it's available on there, but this is kind of lost of time, just like Dino Crisis 1 is. So I hope they do a collection or like some sort of re-release in some way.
Come on, PS Plus, like, Put it into your
Yeah,
PlayStation
exactly.
area.
Put it in the subscription at least, because I think you can actually buy Dino Crisis 1 on GOG, like on PC, but I don't think 2 is available. I have to look.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, so for my number 10, it's Okami. This is a Zelda-like kind of game with this gorgeous painterly, I think it's a Ukiyo-O style, art style, Japanese art style. I forgot what it's called. The idea here, this was originally released on the Wii, which actually is a great use case for this, where...
Wow, I thought it was the GameCube.
No, you know what? I'm sorry. It was a PS2 first. It was
okay.
a PS2 exclusive. You're right. I got it backwards, and then it came out on the Wii, which made more sense.
Nice. Yeah.
But on the PS2, you use your I think it was R1, and the idea in this game is like you're Amaterasu, who's like the sun god wolf, and you could draw on the screen to do certain attacks, or like you could draw a bomb, like a circle with like a line through it, and it would bomb a wall. And that was the thing, is like each new ability was some way to draw something on the screen. So it was almost like taking Zelda with Bob Ross in some sense.
Nice.
And then once the Wii version came out, it made perfect sense with the Wii motion control, because those drawing motions were way easier using your right hand than the nunchuck, right?
Man, they could have put it on like DS or 3DS. And
well, they do have one on
nice.
on DS. It's called Okamiden. It's a much smaller game because you play as like as a pup, pretty much.
Nice.
So it's got a little bit more cutesy style. But Okami was a really great game. They're coming out with part 2 at some point. This has also been remastered. It's available on PS4 with some enhancements. It's also on like Xbox and Switch as well. Really amazing game if you like Zelda. And again, like it's just one of the more stunning art styles, especially at the time. Because I think this came out in 2006, 2005. And it was one of those Capcom games you're like, holy crap, this is signature Capcom. Like something brand new, something fresh, something different, but still Zelda in some senses.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so my number 9 is one that we've talked about recently on our, I think it was last October was
yeah, I think it was part of the October slate of episodes. Yeah.
And I didn't put the whole series on here because I haven't really played much of the others. I played a little bit of 2, but it's Devil May Cry. And I guess I would lump in the remake, the DMC remake, in that, because I really enjoyed that when I
great game.
was playing it for the episode. But the first game, that one hooked me. It's I forgot about the tank controls and everything, but I just remember really enjoying the frenetic pace, and it hooked me enough that I've actually beaten it. And then I tried to get into 2 a little bit, and I heard that one wasn't that great, so I didn't go too much further into it. Plus, I got a little burnout from the first one, and I still haven't played 3, 4, or 5, but I hear those are all amazing as well.
Yeah, 3 is great. 4 is I always had trouble with 4 because that came on the era when like the like HD was new, and it was like a 360 game where like half of the game is literally the first half of the game reversed, right? So it's like they're still kind of filling out what HD meant and like that the HD era of gaming. But 5 is just, it's sublime. It's really, really good.
Yeah, but this one, I'm surprised. I even surprised myself putting it on this list. But
Me too.
I was like, you know what? No, this was fun. This was one of the rare times where I didn't mind the hordes of enemies and all the crazy, insane action that you can do. It was fun, and Dante is a great character to like be in the shoes of and listen to all his quips and all his badassery.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. My number 9 is from the Ghosts and Goblins series, which you mentioned on your honorable mentions, because I really did love this series growing up, even though it was just brutally hard. I grew up more with the Genesis version, which I always forget. I always get them confused because I think it's called like Ghosts and Goblins or Ghouls and Ghosts.
Ghouls
right?
and Ghosts is the Sega one.
I think so, one, right? And then there's Super Ghosts and Goblins on Super Nintendo, which I had played first, but that was another game where a friend had it. I really didn't have much access to it. And then my dad was able to get me the Genesis one from like this whole slate of games he found from someone who was selling them. And really loved it. But the game that really I love from this series is one that's not even called Ghosts and Goblins. It's Maximo Ghosts of Glory. This was a PS2 game. I think it was released 2002, 2001. And this is one of those games that sort of, to me, it's like one of the earliest reimaginings of a series that came out. And it's not so fondly remembered as I wish it was, but it took a lot of what the original Ghosts and Goblins did and made it into a fully 3D game. So you had the same kind of progression. You had Maximo, who could, like, his armor would deteriorate towards just in his, like, his shorts with the hearts on and everything, right?
Yep.
You had the same similar enemies. Everything's like the 3D. It also included the difficulty. It was really, really hard for most people. And this is one of those games at the time where, I was like 16 when I played this. I was actually really proud I could finish it because it's pretty freaking hard. Like, each level is not, you really have to take your time. There's like, there are cheap pitfalls where it's like you go on the surface and all of a sudden it just drops onto you without much warning, right? So it takes everything that the 2D games did and put it perfectly into a 3D space.
I remember I borrowed this from you at least once, and it was difficult for me, but I think at the time I didn't quite put two and two together that it was part of the Ghosts and Goblins series.
Yeah, I don't think most people did because the name alone just doesn't, no one expected to be a Ghosts and Goblins game. It's totally like a spiritual successor to that in some senses.
It's what Castlevania wanted to do back then when they went fully 3D. They did this a lot better.
They did. It was really, I don't recall who the developer was, but they did a really amazing job. Like some of the music are remix versions of some of the tunes from the earlier games.
Nice.
So again, it's like one of those, in a time now when like these homages and reimaginings of old series are like commonplace now, this was really like one of the earliest ones I can remember that I was like, wow, this is really great, and I actually like them better than most of the earlier games because for one, I could actually beat it, and it didn't feel as cheap. Like you definitely had a learning curve, but it was still manageable to where it's like you could understand like the next set of enemies that are coming at you, or like, again, like if something drops under you, you're like, okay, well, I know not to do that next time.
Classic.
Yeah.
This is the first one, right? There was a second one.
There was a second one called Army of Zin. That one is actually a little bit easier. I got through most of it. I didn't finish it at the time, but it's it's a solid sequel, and it's like more structured like a 2D game where it's like you gotta go level by level.
Oh, nice.
Whereas the original game had like an overworld hub in each world, and you would beat each of the levels, go on to the next one. It's kind of like like Spyro Banjo-Kazooie format, right? Where you beat all the levels,
which was the style at the time.
As we shake our fists at the clouds here. But yeah, it had like a hub world, whereas part 2 was more just like level by level kind of thing. Still really good, but I have more fondness for Ghost of Glory.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Deucy, your number 8, which I fully expected for this to be on here somewhere.
I am so glad that this game was split when it was developed and ported to 2 different consoles, because now I get to put it on this list because it's by Capcom, and that is Aladdin on SNES.
Yes.
You can't say that about the Sega one. So it's got to make my top 10 here. And just for all the reasons I talked about way back on episode 5 or
it was like
6?
That might have been episode 4. I don't remember. It was way back, but that was a really fun episode because we digested both versions of the game, and it's really just split. But it's like we really concluded what everyone else should conclude, which is like these are both amazing games. Mm-hmm. If you have access to them now, play them both. They're both really good.
It still holds up today. I will replay this one a ton on the Aladdin Lion King collection. I forgot what they called that one. It's not the Disney Afternoon, but it's like the movies.
I don't remember what that one was called.
Aladdin, Lion King, Jungle Book, and something else. But yeah, this one, I talked about it back then. I rented it more than once, and for some reason I never owned it until a lot more recently.
Oh, that's actually very shocking, because I thought this would have been one you picked up for sure at some point.
No, yeah, it was definitely more once we started collecting games again.
Yeah. All right, my number 8 is from the Onimusha series because I love Resident Evil. I love Japanese and samurai sort of themes, and these games are essentially that. They're set in this demon world, this demonified Japan, where the yokai are these bad guys, and Nobunaga has been resurrected from the demon world. And it's Onimusha Warlords is the first game because I loved 2 and 3. 2 is really hard. I was playing through on the remaster, and I got to the end twice because I replayed over it because I was like, I need to do something different because I was stupid and didn't save more often. 3 is great because you have Jean Reno in there. And everything's 3D. Like that's when they shifted from pre-rendered backgrounds to 3D. But for me, it was really just Onimusha 1 where I had just gotten my PS2. I picked this up, shortly after. I got it on eBay or something like that. And I was like, holy crap, this is like what I hope Resident Evil will be on the next iteration that they do. And it's just really fun. It's again, you play as a samurai, Samanosuke Akechi, and the whole idea is like you're trying to go after Nobunaga and kill him in the demon world. You have like these giant bosses. Everything's much more faster paced than Resident Evil because it's more melee oriented, right? Like you're not relying on guns or anything like that.
I don't know why I just had this flash of like a future Resident Evil should be set in Japan, and due to like unforeseen circumstances, you have to use a sword against the zombies.
That would be pretty badass. It'd be sort of like, God, what did that before? I feel like something we've seen before has done something like that.
Well, I know, was it Dead Rising? He always had different melee
I guess that's
weapons.
fair. Yeah, that's tangential. That almost made my honorable mentions list too. That game was really great.
Yeah.
But Onimusha Warlords, I can get through it anytime. This is another one of those games I can pick up and play because it's also shockingly short. Like you could beat it in under 3 hours.
I was surprised when I was doing it for the episode. I was like, wow, I'm further than I ever have been before, and I'm actually like pretty close to the end, maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's one of those, again, like it's an early PS2 game, but it's also one of those things where you could definitely tell that they kind of shortened things, because I remember it being longer than it was. And even back then, I remember I could play through it again. It was somewhat shorter, but when I played through it for episodes, like, wow, this is even shorter than I remember back then. Like I got the trophy for being in under 3 hours. So there you go.
Damn.
All right, Deucy, you're number 7.
My number 7, I almost forgot about until I saw your list when you put it together on our Excel sheet here, and it's X-Men Mutant Apocalypse on the Super Nintendo. I was like, how could I forget this? This was another game that I wish I had owned back then. Played it at every friend's house that had it. I don't know what it was, but it was like probably the first X-Men game that I remember being really good and really fun. And it's, even though it's really hard, you didn't mind. You just like died.
Yeah.
You passed off the controller to your friend because it was a single player game, but you just waited your next turn and you got back into it.
You know, it was manageable, because one reason why I love this game so much as well is because that's Street Fighter inputs, which may not be warm to other people, but I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to beat him up.
The sound effects were also very like Street Fighter-ish.
The sound effects were actually, Wolverine's claw attacks is actually Vega's claw attacks.
Oh yeah, yep.
And the music is also done. I forget his name, but he did the Mega Man X soundtrack, so that's why it sounds very just sort of like heavy metalish and fast, and you know, it fits perfectly with the X-Men. There's sort of the feel of the game. But I really, really love this game. It's, you know, great X-Men games were hard to come by back then.
Yeah.
X-Men 1 on Genesis was a fun time, but it was really, really hard and very, very clunky. But again, it was like it was like 91 when that came out, 92. X-Men 2 Clone Wars, which I think, I forgot if that came out after this or around the same time. And as much as I love that game, it's really good. But again, it's just brutally hard. Where Mutant Apocalypse, it's difficult, but it still feels like if you play levels long enough, or you know, a few times, you can really understand it and get through the game.
I didn't have access to the Sega ones back when we were kids, so I couldn't really compare. But when I did play Clone Wars for that episode, I really enjoyed that one. But it had a very different feel, because I feel like the levels were a little bigger or more vertical. You could
they were.
You could get lost like in some old games on the Genesis, whereas Mutant Apocalypse was very focused. It was a left to right, like beat 'em up, but like you said, with the Street Fighter inputs, which was kind of a revelation for beat 'em ups at the time.
Yeah, I really can't think of another beat 'em up at the time that did anything like that. That was very bold, and you know, the inputs weren't crazy. Like you didn't have charge moves, like you had a lot of down forwards or forward down forward like Shoryuken inputs, but it was great. It worked really, really well. Yeah. My number 7 is a series that I wish would make a comeback. It's Beautiful Joe on the GameCube and also PS2. Fun fact about the PS2 version is they ported it after, because this was a GameCube exclusive for a long time. And I think it's one of those cases where the games just didn't sell well enough, so they ported it over, just like Resident Evil 4. The PS2 version has Dante as a playable character.
Nice.
It's really cool. But Beautiful Joe, you play as like this he's sort of like a Power Ranger equivalent in some senses. Like he starts off as just like this regular teenage kind of guy, and he can morph into like this Power Ranger looking character with like the same helmet, morpher helmet. And the big game about this game is that your left and right triggers could either slow down time or hasten time, so you fast forward. And that would play a lot in the gameplay, where it's like, you know, you'd have these really tough segments where it's like you're fighting a tank and it's shooting shells at you, and if you slow down time, you can actually punch the shells back and it bounces back to it. Or there's certain hazards where you have to fast forward through. And it did a lot with that, where it's like each level was pretty long, it had checkpoints, but each sort of a skirmish could get pretty difficult because there's a lot of enemies to manage, and there's stuff where like if you go in slow motion, you actually do your attacks do more damage, and you can actually like uppercut enemies and other ones and do combo and chain attacks, which would refill the meter that controls time.
Damn.
Really great game. I wish it was more loved than it is. They came out with like a couple on, I think there was one on the DS, and they had like a Smash Bros. Kind of game. I forgot what that was called. I think it was called Red Hot Rumble. That one wasn't as great because it's just, you know, it's like a lesser Smash Bros. Game. But the first two games, Beautiful Joe 1 and 2 on the GameCube and PS2, are just stellar experiences for me.
You know, I don't think I remember watching you play it over at your house, but I don't think I ever borrowed it or ever played like a minute of it.
I'm surprised. I think we would have borrowed this at least. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't know why I didn't. I think I remember it was very new, and we never usually borrowed games from each other when they were very new.
Mhm.
And then after a while, I just got distracted by other stuff.
It's probably was the case because I think this came out in 2004, somewhere around there. There's probably other stuff we were playing, but it is also really difficult, which also might have been turning you off.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably saw me die quite a few times learning these levels and everything, but it's really, really good. I actually wish I should play through this again just for fun because it's been like a while. All right, Deucy, you're number 6.
My number 6 might be a surprise to most who listen to me on this podcast.
I was surprised as well.
It's a fighting series. It's the Marvel fighting series. I lumped everything together like X-Men, what is it, Children of the Atom?
Yeah, I consider them the same. Like there's the X-Men versus series and Marvel versus, right? Because they're really the same series. They're just, it's like,
they were annual.
They broadened from X-Men to like all of Marvel.
Yeah, but the one I want to point out the most for this list is Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I also really, really enjoyed Marvel vs. Capcom 2, even though I would get my ass handed to me like plenty of times. For some reason, I was a glutton for punishment, and when I would go to your house, I was like, fire that up on the Dreamcast. But then Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, and I guess I could pair the original and then the Ultimate version that came out later. This one was just really fun solo, which you don't get to say too much about fighting games. But I also don't really like competing online or with other people. So like this really spoke to me, and there were modes for the solo play. The arcade was, well, the first game was difficult but beatable, and then they made an adjustment which really made it unbeatable.
Yeah.
But it was also one of the first times I remember where they added sort of the simplified fighting mechanic. So friends who came over who might not be really adept at normal fighting moves and stuff could play sort of a Smash Brothers button mashing style, and you could face off and have really close battles, really fun times.
Yeah, this one I really enjoyed Ultimate or Marvel's Capcom 3, which, like you said, we'll bundle it with Ultimate because this got a lot of controversy at the time because the original one came out like February, March 2011, and then by November they had one that had like a new mode. It was Heroes and Heralds, which was like that single player kind of card game where you could collect like cards, and I think they would give you different abilities and whatnot. And then they added a whole bunch of characters like Ghost Rider, Frank West. I forgot who else was in there. What's his name? Firebrand from Demon's Crest and Ghosts and Goblins. Ironically,
I think Jill came into it at one point.
She was a DLC
originally?
character originally with Shuma Gorath. Yeah, but this game I really love Marvel's Capcom 3, but it is one of those games where as much as I love playing online, this was hard because you find those people who would like keep you in the air like the entire match. I'm like, well, I knew exactly how you felt, Deuce. You're like, I'm just gonna put my controller down because I can't move in there. Yeah, it's brutal on there. But yeah, this one I was surprised to get on your list, but you know it makes perfect sense too because I feel like this was like your type of fighting game as well.
I put a surprising amount of time into the Heroes and Heralds mode.
It was really awesome.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot. Yeah, because you had to eventually fight Galactus, and he was like a screen filling boss, just like Apocalypse was back in the day.
I'd say this and Soul Calibur and Smash Brothers, but like for basic fighting games, this and Soul Calibur were the ones I played the most.
Yeah,
away from everybody, just solo.
You were on top of Soul Calibur 2. You played that a ton, and you also played the original on Dreamcast. But I think once 2 came about, especially on GameCube, you played the hell out of that one.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, my number 6 is one we just talked about. It's X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. So I won't say too much on it because we kind of went in depth, but I remember renting this, not knowing anything about it because it was just something that I didn't even know existed at the time. I just saw it, I was like, well, it's X-Men, and it's on Super Nintendo, and I was genuinely shocked at how good it was. And if you told us a story where we played it at a friend's house for a birthday, which I didn't even remember, right? That was the first time.
I was just about to bring that up. That's one of my favorite memories about this game.
Yeah, and I do kind of remember where we chose specific characters, and I got stuck with Psylocke, who had one of the hardest levels. Yeah.
But we trusted that you could pull off her moves.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember I was Gambit, and I think Beto was maybe Beast, or no, Cyclops.
I think he was Cyclops. Yeah.
And then our friend who's, I want to say it was for a birthday, right? Like,
yeah.
I think he got to be Wolverine because everybody wants to be Wolverine.
Yeah, and Wolverine had the I would say the easiest level, but also because we probably played that one the most.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really great format and different format too, because you start off with individual characters and their specific levels, and then once you beat all those, then you could freeform choose whatever character you want to beat the rest of the game. And it got pretty difficult, but you know, if you got through it enough, like you had limited lives, but eventually you could learn the levels enough to where it wasn't that bad. I thought this was way more manageable than the Clone Wars or X-Men 1 on Genesis, where sometimes it just felt cheap to play those. And this is more like once you kind of get the enemy layouts and how to do moves and everything, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, because luckily they didn't change things up. So like I was mentioning before, if you died and you passed the controller, you still remembered that part of your level. And you're like, I'll get you next time.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Deucy, we're cracking top 5. So go ahead with your number 5.
So here's the second probably big shocker of the day.
Well, I thought this might be somewhere on the list, but I was actually more shocked it was in your top 5.
Yeah, the more I thought about it, though, I was like, this is so iconic. It goes hand in hand with Capcom, and it's the Street Fighter series, which will probably be talked about much later on this list. But for me,
nice foreshadowing there, much later.
For me, it had to crack the top 5 because when you say Capcom and you think about the little opening jingle, I immediately think of Street Fighter 2 right after that. And for mine on this list, I had to put Street Fighter 2 Turbo because I feel like it's the one I played the most when we were little.
I think it was because that's when I think I eventually bought Street Fighter 2 Turbo because I remember, like my friend brought over Street Fighter 2, the original, and then I didn't get it till Turbo, and that's when we started playing a lot more.
Yeah, and my friend next door had Street Fighter 2, and he eventually gave me his copy, but like after you play Turbo, it is very hard to go back to the original.
It is.
And I remember playing Super when you got it, but I didn't like that one that much. I didn't care because I never played as the 4 new characters. I was just like, Street Fighter 2 Turbo is all you needed. It had the originals, you got to play as the bosses now, and you got to play quicker.
Yeah, and I think most people would say 2 Turbo of the early 16-bit ones, or at least the ones around the 16-bit systems, was the best. Like, Super has its own problems, and like you can argue how great the 4 characters are. I love all of them, frankly. But most people would consider Turbo or Champ Edition to be the best of the early Street Fighter 2 games.
And this had to make my list and go this high up because like no matter how much I complain about like not doing well in it, I always play the next one. Like I played 3.
You're a glutton for punishment.
I've got the collection that came out where it had from Street Fighter 1 to like Street Fighter Third Strike or whatever. I got Street Fighter 4, I think, or maybe you gave me a copy of it or something. You had like an extra copy or something.
It's probably something. I probably bought like whatever new version it has. Like, you want this? Yeah, why not?
So I played that a bunch, and then Street Fighter 5 came out when I had a PS4. I even played it on there, and I didn't do it that much as 4 and before, but I still haven't played 6. But like anything Street Fighter, I will play. There was that pinball version on Pinball FX, I think it was.
I forgot if I got that one. I don't think, but I remember you told me about it, and it sounded awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it plays the Street Fighter theme, and it was just a fun pinball time. And so, yeah, I had to put this on my list because no matter how much disdain I might have for it, I just really love the series. I really liked the movie. I'm actually looking forward to the movie coming out this year.
It does look really cheesy, but it looks like it'll be a good time.
So Street Fighter definitely has to go on anybody's Capcom list.
Yeah, I think top 5 is a good spot for you too. Yeah. My number 5 is from the Marvel Versus series. It's Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I easily could have put Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on here as well. I also really enjoyed Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I think my only flaw with that is just like the art style felt just very generic and lesser than Marvel vs. Capcom 3 even, because 3 had a really great like comic book style, and 4 was just, it felt Disney-ified, which may be unfair to say, but that's what it felt like. I feel like they could have done a lot better than they did.
Well, it was legit Disney-ified because my gripe about Infinite is that it didn't have the X-Men in it.
Yeah, not at all. It was very Guardians heavy and like MCU heavy, I would say. Yeah. But the one on my list is Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because, as I love the Dreamcast. Like I mentioned that a billion times on this podcast, but I really love the system for all of its arcade ports, especially the fighting games. Marvel vs. Capcom 1 was really, really good, but then Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out, and I bought it the day it came out because I read how good it was, and then there's like 58 characters in this or something ridiculous, and you had to unlock them at the time. So you'd beat the game, you get these points, and you go to the shop and unlock them. So my brother and I spent like, I don't know how much time. Like we were just grinding through getting every single character, because I think it was also a little bit of roulette in the store where it wasn't like a set thing like, okay, I'm going to unlock and Bison. It would just sort of like rotate out every time you go in and out. So there's times where like we'd pop in and out to see if it would change over.
I remember going over to your house and wanting to play it, but then also we would sit around and do that.
Yeah.
Grind for the characters.
Yeah, so once you unlocked everybody, you're like, holy crap, like it just has every Marvel character you can imagine, every Capcom character you can imagine from series I didn't even know about, like Sun, some like obscure Nintendo game I've never even heard of. You have Amingo, who's like this giant cactus who's just, yeah, I think he was the original character for that game as well. But then you had like every character from the Versus series, every character from like Street Fighter, and you know, it was a mix of like old and new sprites, mostly old sprites. But God, this was just so freaking fun with all the screen clearing attacks. 3 versus 3 was a new thing here, where Marvel's Capcom 1 was 2v2. And this was just like a great time for anybody. Like this is one game, like you said, Deuce, you can even get into like, you know, here we didn't have like a huge skill gap. It was just like you could pick whatever arrangement of characters you wanted to experiment with it and still have dumb fun, unless you're picking roll.
I remember we would get to a point where we would tell you to pick like 3 random.
Yeah, I was like, pick my team for me.
Yeah,
yeah. So it was really great, and someone would always have me pick like 3 dance or something stupid, or 3 serve bots or something. But it's just really great fun. Now they have the collection, which I'm really happy they released. I bought it on like every system because I want to, you know, once they delist these things, it's always hard to get because it's a Marvel Disney license. So once they're gone, it's like it's practically a miracle they even re-released it, right? Because they had the 2009 Xbox Live port, and that disappeared until the new collection came out.
I remember when they announced that, I was super excited because I hadn't played it since your Dreamcast copy.
Yeah, and that was 20 something years ago.
And because I think they finally ported it over to what, like PS2 and Xbox.
It was on PS2 and Xbox, and then those copies, they were lesser ports.
They weren't great, yeah.
Yeah, especially the Xbox one, which is surprising because that was obviously way more powerful than the Dreamcast. But eventually those became very expensive too. Like I know the Dreamcast one's really expensive now, but at the time it was hard to find, and they became like 70, 80 bucks or more. And that's also what made it hard to get to too, was like you have these, you know, huge install bases of Xbox and PS2, but you still couldn't really find this game.
So yeah, when it was announced for the Xbox Live Arcade, I was like, okay, day one, I'm downloading that.
I was waiting the night it came out. I was like, as soon as it goes live, I'm going to get my 800 Microsoft points where it was,
and then
cash those in.
When they announced the Capcom Fighting Collection, the first volume, and that was going to be on there, I was like, oh, sign me up again. But then I started playing it more when I was playing all of them, and I was like, boy, this is kind of difficult to even get through one round with 3 characters.
It can. And ironically, though, like it has one of the easiest final bosses of any of those fighting games. It's really ridiculous. His name's Abyss, and he's like one of the most biggest pushovers compared to like Onslaught in the first game was cheap nightmare. Apocalypse was a cheap nightmare, and somehow Abyss was like nothing. You could breeze right through it. Yeah. All right. Do you see your number 4?
So this is the part where I said I cheated a little because I had to split up this series.
Well, it's fair though, because I put one of these on my list as well, and I could have put both, but I wanted to make sure I had other things on my list as well. But I think it's totally fair to split these into 2 series because they kind of are 2 distinct series.
Yeah, for sure. Like my number 4 is Mega Man X from I call it the X and Zero series because later there's some Zero games on Game Boy.
Yeah, it's like a spin-off of Mega Man X.
Yeah. But I also separate these from Mega Man because you could do more. Like you had the armor pieces, and there was like this through storyline that went every edition. But I also only put it 4th because I don't replay this series as much. I replay Mega Man X. That's why it's on my list. Like tons of times. I was thinking about it the other day that I'm like, I never owned it, but I'm surprised that I know where like every E-Tank and where every heart piece is.
The boss order. It's really easy to remember this one.
And just recently I finally beat it after 30 some years. But then, you know, as the later games go on, I'll play them. I beat X2 finally. X3 was a pain. And then like X4 and 5 are fun, but also difficult. And then 6, 7, and 8, meh.
Yeah, that's really when like the series was, a little bit long in the tooth, and it felt like Capcom was just like giving their smaller teams or the inexperienced teams like, we need to make more Mega Man X games. Can you do them? And it unfortunately was rough.
I wish I want to play the X8 demake that they made recently. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, the fan made game.
Yeah. And I wish they would bring back like an X9 or an X10 the way they did Mega Man 9 and 10, where you just go back to some classic graphics, whether it's 16-bit or the 32 or whatever, but go back to what made X so great and put it on my list like at number 4 because this was a great step into the next generation for Mega Man.
It is. It was a perfect leap from the 8-bit to 16-bit, and I think Capcom nailed it with X. Yeah. My number 4, the Devil May Cry series is one of my favorite games because, again, it's an offshoot of Resident Evil, even so much that Devil May Cry 1 was supposed to be Resident Evil 4 before it got changed to that because they're like, this is way too different.
Yeah.
But one I'll call out specifically that's my favorite from the series is Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition, which was the updated version of Devil May Cry 3, which added a whole bunch of, it had some playable characters. It balanced the game a little better because the original Devil May Cry 3 on normal was the Japanese hard mode for some reason. I don't know why they did that, but my brother and I, that was like our sort of our test of skill there was beating the original game on normal because it was freaking difficult. But Special Edition really added a lot of meaningful changes, and this is really when they hit their stride because Devil May Cry 2 was, I don't hate it as much as most people do. Like, I think it's not a great Devil May Cry game, but it's a totally fine action game, right? Like, it has its problems, but
it was sort of, I mean, compared to the first, it was sort of plain.
It just didn't have as much personality, which is ironic because you have Dante, who's, you know, he's like, he has one of the best personalities in the first game.
Yeah.
But 3 is really when they brought it back to basics, so to speak, and they really expanded on what made 1 so great. Like, you have four different attack styles. Like, you have the Gunslinger, which is more like gun based. You have Royal Guard, which adds this crazy, very tight parrying window that you could build up like this giant attack, like if you parried enough. It just really made all the combat front and foremost, and then all the levels were really well done. It got really crazy, really difficult, but again, it was one of those things where it was like once you beat it, you really felt good about yourself.
Was this when they kind of brought his brother into?
Yeah, Virgil was a big
story?
deal in this one. Yeah, and you actually could play as him in the special edition too. So he had like his own campaign, which again, he was like the more badass Dante. Like, he had a lot of different attacks. Like, he had the whole thing with the spiral swords around him as like a shield. Really great game. I like I said, I do love the other games in the series. I'd say like 5 was really close to making this list compared to 3, but because of how much I loved 3 at the time, I had to put it on here. And 5, I would play through that again. I've played through it a couple of times actually, but it's really, really good. 5 is worth playing if you haven't already, and if you want to track down 3, like, it's available on everything now, and it's always like dirt cheap in the collection, or even I think it's I think you find it solo on Switch. I think they sell that separately as a standalone. But frankly, just get the collection. Like, the collection is always like $10 or $12, and it's worth it.
I think somewhere in my library is not downloaded, but downloadable. I think I have 4 and the first 3. I also got the first 3 as a bundle collection on PS2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that. You had that's when they were doing the collections like Onimusha and Devil May Cry and a few others, I think, those triple packs.
Which are pretty decently priced now.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I think they're going for like $80 to $100, a little bit more now. They're pretty crazy. But it's funny because it's like it's just the 3 games with an outer cardboard box, right? But they look cool, right? That's the whole idea.
Like, you could sell them separately and people probably wouldn't know. They didn't mark that they're part of the collection or anything.
I don't think they had different art like the Metal Gear ones did. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. All right, you see your number 3 or cracking the top 3 here.
I mean, this has got to make sense too. We're on the podium finishing.
Yes.
From way back in episode 3.
This might have been 3 or 5. Yeah. I really get muddy with those early episodes because it was so long ago.
But it's the Disney animated series, or the Disney Afternoon Collection, and specifically on here, Darkwing Duck.
Yes. I would say out of the Disney Afternoon Collection, this is probably my favorite as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I could put a 4-way tie between all the originals: DuckTales, Chippendale.
To be honest, I thought that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure you're gonna split them out or if there's gonna be multiple on there.
But like, so when I say the Disney Afternoon series, that is my number 3, is the whole series. But I wanted to point out Darkwing Duck because I remember it's probably the first game I can remember being excited for, knowing that a release was coming. I probably saw the ads in Nintendo Power and I could not wait. We did not get it day 1, but I also just could not wait for that Christmas because I knew I was going to get it then. And it did not disappoint. It's built off the Mega Man 5 engine, so it was like a Mega Man game, but Disney.
Yeah.
And Darkwing Duck at the time was probably my favorite of the cartoons to watch on TV. I would put down my pencil on homework and just stare at the TV and watch it. But yeah, I can't say enough about it. I don't remember. Oh, we didn't rank them. That's what it was. We didn't rank when we did the Disney Afternoon.
I don't think we did.
Episode.
I think we just kind of did like an overview
timeline
of them.
Yeah. But I would probably say this is the number 1 in that whole collection for me.
I would say so too. Like, I love Chippendale. That was another one I had a lot of fondness for. But Darkwing Duck, maybe because I didn't really connect that was a Mega Man game in spirit, right? Back then, like I just knew it was really good.
Yeah.
And maybe it kind of felt like a Mega Man game, but I feel like that's the one that's also one of the more inventive ones, even though it used the Mega Man engine. Plus, it just really felt like Darkwing Duck, and the music's amazing in that game.
I was about to say the music is probably my favorite of all the series, even though DuckTales, I can get every song stuck in my head.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably second on my list compared to this one.
And it was great that the moon theme from the game made it into the show later, or like into the recent show. But like Darkwing Duck, I hope that if they ever finally get that new show based on like the new DuckTales made, that they do something to pay homage to the game as well.
That would be really awesome if it's anything with Darkwing Duck in 2026. Well, I mean, at this point it won't happen, but 2027 maybe. Yeah. My number 3 is probably not too surprising for most people who have been listening to us. It's Mega Man X from the Mega Man series. Now, I didn't split them out like Deucy did because, like I said, I wanted to add more games on my list. Like, really, I just made space for Okami because I love that game. But, if I was to rank a Mega Man game, it would be Mega Man 3. But for me, I would play Mega Man X over all of them because this is one of those ultimate comfort games, as I call them, where I can jump in, play for a couple hours, and get through it. I rented this one back then and, thought it was Mega Man 10. Somehow I missed a bunch of Mega Man games at some point. And I was really just enthralled by the first level, which is like, it's not even a traditional Mega Man step. It's like you have this sort of prologue level through a highway, and then you go to fight the 8 bosses. And all the, this to me, this is like the best first step in a 16-bit for like a series, because they took everything that made Mega Man great and they expanded upon it. So now Mega Man has the different parts he has, like the shield thing that reduces damage. Dashing, he has like the helmet that can break through blocks. He now can wall kick, so he can get up these vertical levels now, because that wasn't really a thing. Like in Mega Man, you'd originally be dropping down more than often than not, right? Or going left to right. And here, now it's like you go up and down these areas, and that allowed for more intricate level designs.
It made the verticality easier because Mega Man had that too, but you had to use a lot of ladders.
That's true. Yeah, you had ladders and rush, and you always use a rush jet to avoid using rush coil to die or something. Yeah. So it mitigated a lot of that, and also streamlined things because you're also not in the pause menu as much trying to switch weapons or switch to different rushes, right? So this was just a very thoughtful, meaningful upgrade for Mega Man for me. And again, like all the bosses look really incredible. It has one of the best soundtracks on the Super Nintendo for me as well. Like I love all the music in this game. It's just a really stellar 16-bit game and just one of my favorite Capcom games ever. All right, Deucy. So I guess we could talk about our number 2 because
didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I figured. So I knew this was going to be somewhere on our list as well, and I was just kind of surprised it landed number 2. But would you like to kick us off for our number 2?
Both of us at the same time. Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
And it's the Resident Evil series. This is another one where I could say the whole series is my number 2. But obviously Resident Evil 2 is the number 1, as we've covered in our rankings list and our special episode on it and everything. But like, in fact, recently Resident Evil 9 almost dethroned it.
Yeah, which is crazy because I mean, it is sort of a modernization of Resident Evil 2 in a lot of senses, or the early Resident Evil games.
Yeah, that was so good, and that's what's brought me back into the series. That's what's made me able to rank the entire series, because it fell off a little with Resident Evil 6. And I was like very scared of 7 for the longest time until recently beat it. But like the way they've crafted the entire story to cover all of these decades of games, I just love deep diving into the lore and everything. And so it had to be like one solid chunk on my list here. And thank you, Capcom, for sticking with it and even reinventing and bringing it back multiple times.
Yeah, it could have been dead years ago. You could argue Resident Evil 6, as well as it sold, might have almost killed the series. But Capcom stuck with it and released Resident Evil 7, which reinvented the whole series. And we got 8, which was also awesome. And we got 9, which is just an absolutely ridiculously amazing experience. But Resident Evil 2 for me was really the first one I got into more than the Resident Evil 1, because I hadn't played Resident Evil 1 much because a friend had it. He told me about it, but I don't think I even saw it for rent at the time. So my brother was really big into horror at the time, and he was, what was he? He was 8 years old, 9. He shouldn't have been even that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But he was so excited to get 2, and then once we got it, we were glued to it. And then you came over and then you were just glued to it all the same. And you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I need to get this.
I remember at one point, you were like, okay, well, you're over now. You want to play something that we would play multiplayer,
two-player.
like some sort of shooter or something. I'm like, no, let's see where this is going. Let's play more Resident Evil 2.
It's just an amazing sequel. It really expanded on what the first game did. It's really sort of like we mentioned in our episode way back. It's the parallel of like Alien to Aliens, where Resident Evil 1 was more sort of it really was steeped in like survival horror, a little bit more methodical, slower paced. And 2 was stepping into Aliens, where it's like it's still sci-fi in this regard. It's horror, but there's a lot more action elements. You now have the zapping system where you have 2 different characters with similar experiences, but their stories intersect at different points. But they're also sort of like different stories because they're experiencing things differently.
They also give you a lot more ammo than the first game.
You do.
I remember maxing out my bullets, my handgun bullets, and then starting a separate one, which took up an extra inventory space. But you were just like, oh, wow, that was definitely, you couldn't get nowhere near that in the first game.
Yeah, and the first game, you really had to manage your resources, and here it was a little bit better balanced, but I also think that's obviously more, it's by design, right? Like they want you to experience the game a little bit easier than the first game was.
Well, they threw a lot more enemies at you too, so they were like, we need you to be able to clear a path.
Yeah, there's a lot more enemies, a lot bigger enemies as well. Like you had Mr. X, who was like an ongoing tyrant in the Virgin B scenario, whereas, in the first game, you had some of your bosses, but they were confined to like a single room.
Yeah.
Mr. X followed you in a lot of instances. This game also, there was a lot more variety in the areas. Like the RPG to me is one of the most iconic settings ever for me, and one of the ones I have the most fondness for because of how memorable it was, and
that score,
and the score as soon as you step in there, right? So it's just this game, Resident Evil 2, is really just like a big game for Deucy and I, but also like I do love the remake as well. Like we've talked about some of the flaws it might have, but that is still one of my favorite games ever because it's, again, I've been using modernization a lot this podcast, but it's a modernization of a game that we loved back then for all of its flaws or not, right?
And I love how Resident Evil 9, it mostly builds off of the Resident Evil 2 remake, but that's fine because of the story that they're telling, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's all on the same engine now, and I really hope for the Code Veronica to come out on the RE engine, and I would not be opposed to another Resident Evil 1 remake with the new engine, even though that remake on GameCube was amazing. Yeah,
that is we've talked about that as well. Like that's one of my benchmarks for remakes. It still holds up very, very well, and at the time, that was just like one of the most mind-blowing games I ever played because it looked incredible on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And again, that was only, 5-6 years after the original, which, some people are critical now of like games coming out that are remastered, a few years later. It's like, no, Resident Evil 1 wasn't that far off from the remake, but at that point, it really needed it because it's like a totally different game in a lot of senses, right? Because it had the same tank controls and everything, but it felt like a brand new game. And Resident Evil 2, we've been hoping for literal decades for a remake, and we finally got one. But 2, to me, it's like one of the most iconic games ever made, and it's definitely one of the best sequels ever made. And of course, it's Capcom, which we're celebrating today in one way or another.
Yep.
All right, Deucy, your number 1, which I'd say this is a good choice for you. I think it makes sense.
I was going to say, we just talked a lot about our number 2 because we came to the consensus on that, but our number 1s are definitely us.
Yeah, I would say so.
Is with so many of our list episodes, but my number 1 is the Mega Man series, the original series, and definitely Mega Man 2 on that list, which is, I think, what came in number 1 on my Mega Man rankings.
It did, because I had 3 at 1, and we had like a weird shakeup when we did the final ranking. If I recall, I think Mega Man 2 was 2 or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, recount.
But yeah, it had to be Mega Man 2. That's what got me into the series. Mega Man and the Disney games were synonymous with Capcom for me. Like, I didn't fully understand what publishers and developers were back then, but I knew a purple box meant a good time and a purple border on the little game cartridge. And so when I got Mega Man 2, even though the cover looks like a weird guy in a motorcycle outfit shooting a gun.
Yeah, that's right. It's on my wall here.
Yeah.
So you can't see it on the podcast world, but
yeah. I was like, what am I getting into? And then I get in there and it's just so awesome. And like the whole concept of going through the levels, beating the bosses. I had to put this series and separate it from X. I separated it from the Mega Man Legends and the Mega Man Battle Networks. Those could all be their own rankings.
That's true. Yeah.
But like the simplicity of the original Mega Mans is what makes this series number one for me, and I could pick them up and play any of them at any time. Like I said, I kind of dropped off on X series. I don't play the last one so much, but with Mega Man, I just recently beat Mega Man 7 for the first time, and I could go into 8 and 9 and 10 when they made their comeback, and yeah, all of them are fun to me.
It's fun because I'm the same way with Mega Man X, where it's like I can enjoy 2 and 3, but I don't like them as much. And I don't know what it is about the sequel fall off for X2 and X3 compared to like the earlier Mega Man games, like in the Nintendo series, because I can play them all the same, just like you. Like I can go through 2, 3, 4, whatever. I really enjoy 5 and 6 that I grew to love. Like it took me a while to love those, but those are great as well.
Yeah.
But to me, it just feels like the Mega Man series on Nintendo just felt right. And to me, Mega Man X was like by far the best X game on the Super Nintendo.
I think with the X series, they kept trying to do something new and more.
That's fair. Yeah.
They would give you more to collect. Like all of a sudden you have to get Zero's parts, or in the later games, X has like 2 or 3 suits he has to collect.
Yeah, and it could get pretty difficult to manage all that too, because you really have to dig for them. There's some I'll call them somewhat obtuse ways to get these things. Yeah, especially in 2 and 3.
Whereas 1 was pretty simple to get all the suit parts that you needed, and then after that was all the enemy weapons, which is what was built off of Mega Man, the original series. So with the original ones, I liked that it stayed simplified. Like Rush kind of changed throughout the time, and Mega Man 6 you had a Rush suit that was awesome, but they really kept everything basic. Mega Man never got armor parts or anything. It was just what new set of bosses gave you new weapons, and how do you figure out the pattern to them?
Yeah, and on top of it, this again is one of the best sequels ever made, because Mega Man 1, fine game.
Yeah.
But 9-day difference between 1 and 2 as far as what they did with this. And also this has one of the best NES soundtracks ever. I'm more fond of 3, obviously, because I grew up with that one more, but you know, I can't deny how great the soundtrack is in 2. Like there's a reason I'd say the majority of people say Mega Man 2 is the best soundtrack out of the earliest Mega Man games.
It really made me pay attention to soundtracks in general. Like I know when I go back and I play old games that I played a lot, like Tiny Toons or Mario or something, definitely the tunes are in my head and they get unlocked and I'm like, oh my god, I remember these. But like Mega Man 2, I will go out and look for on purpose to listen to.
Yeah, it's one of those soundtracks you'll revisit often. For me, it's like the Mega Man games and like Streets of Rage and a few other series where it's like I'll just go like on a whim. Dang, I really feel like listening to that soundtrack or something.
Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country. I'll go like on YouTube or something, just listen to like a playlist or something.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Deucy. Well, my number 1 is plainly obvious to anyone who knows me, and it's Street Fighter. And I'm saying Street Fighter as in the entire series.
Yeah.
Every game they've ever released. I would say, you know, with the exception of maybe 1, but even then, like I have to love 1 because if it wasn't for 1, we wouldn't get 2. But yeah, Street Fighter the series is Capcom to me. Like whenever time, like you said at the beginning when we started this list, is like, you know, whenever you hear Capcom, you usually think Street Fighter. Like there's a lot of series you can associate with them. I'd say like Street Fighter is probably the earliest one. Now it's like Resident Evil. It could be Mega Man. It could be anything that we listed here. But Street Fighter for me is like one of the series that, I mean, it's really a series that got me into fighting games. I have so much love for the Street Fighter 2 series, like all those. I moved on to like Street Fighter Alpha and like how great those were. And like those took advantage of like the CPS2 hardware that we were talking about earlier with like the Darkstalker series and, the Marvel Versus series. I've played like I think every Street Fighter game that's ever existed.
Yeah.
And of course I could rank those
times.
Multiple times. I could rank those individually, but it's just one form or another, I just get addicted to any Street Fighter game that's been out there. I love Street Fighter 3. That had some problems on its own for the first couple games, and they hit gold with Third Strike. I got into Street Fighter 4, like that influenced a whole nother generation of gamers, because now there's like the 09ers, as they call them, which is like the only Niners I care about. Right? It's like there's a whole sort of this series just spawned off like a new generation of people who love fighting games, and I just love fighting games in general. And then there was like Street Fighter 5, which I like that one a lot, but that's really the reason why I got a PS4 at the time, because I didn't have a Series X, an Xbox One or a PS4, and I was really just waiting because, one, I was broke. 2, the moment they announced it was exclusive to PS4, I was like, well, I'm definitely getting the PS4 because Street Fighter 5's on there. And Street Fighter 6, that was like my, I think it was like it was number 2 or number 1 on my list for 2023, and that is like the sort of best distillation of everything they've done over the last like 3 decades for fighting games into like one new package. They've made everything more approachable. There's like a great world tour mode that's kind of like Shenmue. It just feels great to play, and that's how I feel about every Street Fighter game. It's like I can just dive into any version at any time And despite not playing them for however long, it somehow just feels, it just fits like a glove to me. I can just jump in and I know exactly how to play them still.
I think it helps that they didn't try to reinvent the wheel at any time. All they did was they made the graphics like immensely better, and like no matter how busy it might look on the screen, because now the backgrounds are popping at you and stuff, or the characters are big and bulky and looking different with different clothes on, but it still boils down to the same button combos. Like freaking Ryu's down to forward punch is a fireball for decades. Like they've never tried anything else.
Every fighting game has some motion like that too, right? And that's the thing, is like you make the jump from Street Fighter 1 to 2. Like Street Fighter 1 had some of the worst controls I ever played in any game. Like there's no way to really defend that game at all. And again, you only have to acknowledge it because that dumpster fire of a game influenced the revelation that they had with 2, where you suddenly had like controls that actually responded to your inputs. You had a diverse cast of 8 characters.
What a novel concept.
Right? Yeah, right. we make jokes about that now, but it's like a lot of arcade games, they control like crap back then. And like that was a big revelation when this came out in 91. And a lot of people got addicted to it. It really just sort of revitalized the arcade industry and like kept it going until it died off in the 90s, right? But it's just, to me, like whenever I associate Capcom, it's always with Street Fighter, and it's just one of those series that I'm just plainly addicted to this game. I could play it anytime, anywhere. I buy every version that comes out.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a chance I could play it online with someone, like I jump at it. Like it's just such a great series, and it's one of the most personal series for me, which is crazy because all the games that we listed in some way, especially like our top 5, top 6, those are very personal to us in some way for those franchises that we grew up with. And I think that's what's most important about Capcom. It's like we've had, to me, I have to say they're probably like my favorite developer ever, right? I don't know if there's anyone else who could come close.
Yeah, when I was looking at how to make my list and all the potential things that could be put on there, I'm like, Capcom is so versatile that like, look at our top 5s and even our top 10s. Both of our lists are very different.
Yeah.
Except for a couples, but like they can speak to different types of players, and they have a game for everybody out there.
They really do, and they excelled at most of it, right? Of course, not everything was a big win, but I'd say like the stuff that's been a mainstay for literally 3-4 decades. It's pretty big accomplishment. Like there's only a couple that could do, like Mario, or I don't want to say Mario, but like Nintendo really only has that similar accolade, right? Or maybe Sega to an extent too with like Sonic. But as far as like the range of series that have stayed around for like this long of a time, it's a pretty slim list overall.
When you mentioned Nintendo, and they have a lot of original characters that have their own series, like Mario. Fox is getting his own thing now. Donkey Kong, Samus with Metroid, Kirby, and you didn't see those on any other consoles. Nintendo was the thing for them. Capcom has so many series that we listed that have lasted decades. You'd almost think that they were their own, like that they had their own console or something.
Yeah,
they're really up there with hits, with hit after hit, and they don't really give up on them too much.
No, that's the thing, is I think that's pretty incredible itself, because with the gaming industry, especially nowadays, is so steep with like layoffs and like,
oh god, yeah,
executives trying to get these unattainable sales goals and everything like that. Like it's really crazy that Capcom is just like Nintendo, has stuck with what they know, what they're consistent with, and they've just made these really meaningfully great games, right? Like, there's layoffs everywhere, and I'm sure that Capcom has had their share of layoffs over time, but they've been doing so well over the last like 10 years that you really don't hear anything about them, because they're just making great games, which, kind of a novel concept, I guess, for some people. But it's really incredible that they've just been consistent with their quality of games.
They're not making cash grabs. They're just, well, I mean, maybe during those doldrum years they were trying.
Yeah.
But now they even have like stuff like Pragmata, which could lead to a whole new series of games. Yeah.
And there's also a whole series we haven't talked about because we just haven't dived into it much, but it's like the Monster Hunter series is like one of their biggest ever, right? Like that's one of the biggest ones that's been like, that kind of came out of nowhere in some senses, because it was huge in Japan first, and then slowly came to the US. And that's one of the biggest games they have now, where it's like Monster Hunter World still has a ton of players. They have Monster Hunter Wilds, which, actually, I just got for $15 because I was on sale at GameStop. But that's like a huge series as well, right? I think it even outsold Resident Evil for a time.
Oh, yeah. That's probably what kept them going when Resident Evil was hitting the skids. And
that's probably fair to say.
And Mega Man was dropping off and stuff. And even Street Fighter didn't have 6 yet. Mm-hmm. Like they were doing whatever live service they wanted with 5. But Monster Hunter all of a sudden came out and started coming onto more systems. And like, it's not on any of my list because I don't play them all that much. But
yeah, for me, they're really hard to get into because they're hard to play solo.
Yeah.
You really need like a co-op, you really need to have like co-op committed partners in there because it's really difficult otherwise. Like you get to a point where it just becomes too damn hard as a solo player.
I appreciate what they do
Yeah.
and what they can do for people who want to have co-op buddies and stuff like that. It's a really great time for that. Did Capcom do Breath of Fire?
Yeah, that's the RPG on that started on Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
yes.
they have like a handful of those too that were, they were trying to go toe to toe with the Final Fantasies and the Dragon Quests at the time. And, I think I played a couple of them, but I need more of a guide because
me too, because they do feel dated.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of them on the Switch Online service. I think there's at least one, maybe 1 and 2. I want to get 3 on PS1 because that has like the HD, not HD sprites, but like the 2D sprites. It's sort of like a Final Fantasy Tactics style. But I don't have familiarity with those because I was always playing like a Final Fantasy or something like that, right?
But I know that they have a big fan base as well, and people want to see them, continuing on if they could.
Yeah. So again, there's like a ton of stages we just didn't cover because it wasn't maybe on a radar, or it just wasn't made our list. But I will say, if I did have to choose one Street Fighter game, it probably would be Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, because I feel like that's like the pinnacle of Street Fighter 2. And then, of course, I probably would get something like, I would honestly put like Street Fighter 6 up there as well because of how good that was. Like it's still really good. I could jump into that one anytime. But yeah, it's been fun to revisit Capcom because again, like this is one of our favorite developers, if not our favorite developer and publisher, I would say. And for us, we really grew up with this company since like the beginnings of our gaming, more or less.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so we had a pretty fun list with this one, Deucy. So if you have anything else out there for our friends who are listening, you can let us know by email at legiongamingpod@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcast, where we post all kinds of fun stuff, probably some Capcom stuff, I'm sure, at some point. I'm sure I've posted a bunch of Capcom stuff over time as well. Deucy, any final words for our friends going out to play more Capcom games?
Just Legion Gaming will return.